Hello, and welcome to Rolling Escapades Season 2, where we're doing more of the Session 0 one-shot stuff. So we've got Andrew coming along. We're going to do the sort of intro thing. This is Session 0 number 7, in terms of like character introduction, but at this point you should have seen, if you haven't, go and watch it, the first of the missions. But you also should have seen Nathan's and Swin's and Jordan's and Evan's and Rob's and John's and now Andrew's.
Yes, I'm here too. I have no idea what happens in any of the other things.
Nope. No, you do Newt.
Newt?
Do Newt, exactly. You will see Sam's soon-ish later. That's coming. There's reasons. He has things. But yeah, so it's just a little bit of information about Andrew's character, who they are, what they are, and some things that happened in the background, as it has been for all of them. Destai is still our sponsor. I once again forgot to pick up the thingies. So they make awesome chainmail things, and somewhere on the screen is their logo, which I'm not sure what the layout of these are at the moment, so I don't know where. But there's a link in the description. You go click on that. They make things like key rings, dice bags, rings, necklaces, bracelets, all sorts of fun, funky chainmail awesome. So go click on that and explore. You will also find in the description a link to stuff created by a guy called Christopher Rolls, who is essentially our artist for this season. He is currently, as of this moment, creating character art for us. We don't have it yet. You don't get to see it.
And as soon as someone picks up some new armor, that's going to be inaccurate.
Yeah, pretty much. You will see that in the first episode. We will have that for people to look at. But yeah, so there's stuff where you can get him to make stuff for you. It's pretty cool. I do really like it. And you'll also find a link to his DM's Guild stuff, in which he's got most notably known Izzy's Slightly Used Airships, which is a PDF that introduces new types of airships, variations on just the standard airship that you find in the DMG, which is pretty cool. I think there's like a drow airship and a dwarf airship, and there might be an orc airship. There's some cool things in there, and a vendor called Izzy who sells them, which is pretty sweet. And then he's also brought out, since then, I think 2 new PDFs. One with some more airship goodiness, and then there's another one that introduces like fighting rules for airships, so you can have aerial combat in airships with other ships. Yeah. Which is pretty cool. I haven't got that yet, but it is on my list of things to get, because doing an aerial combat could be entertaining. But yeah, so those are the things in the description. Destai and Christopher Rolls. Go watch the other Session Zeros. They have fun things to offer, and you may spot some links. Right, before we get into, Andrew, your character is Icarus. You are a human sorcerer, and you are wild magic.
Yes.
That is essentially your character.
Very simple.
Yeah. You're, I actually don't know if I ever asked you an age, but I want to say like young-ish.
Kind of late 20s.
Yeah, cool. So there we go. So.
But he looks a lot older.
He does look a lot older. He looks aged, but isn't. So yeah, that's the sort of idea of what Andrew is playing. So, Icarus. It has been about 4.5 years since you saw the sort of pink-purple explosion over the distance across the continent, and your powers manifested themselves. Since then, you have mostly learned how to control them, and you have adapted to the various side effects that they brought with them. Your last 3 months inside the ancient library that you discovered within the Quiet Brick Wood have been fruitful. You have read many books and learned a lot about the gods, and about your own powers.
Mm-hmm.
You have also discovered during your time inside the library that the wood itself is under the protection of a human druid by the name of Halvar. Halvar and you have come to a sort of non-verbal agreement.
An understanding.
An understanding, yeah. In that you watch over and maintain the library. Keep books protected and in order. Go around and clean where necessary. And in return, Halvar keeps watch on the forest. Does what he can to deter outsiders from visiting. Not many people, as far as you're aware, in fact, no one actually knows of the existence of the library, so it's something that both of you are happy to maintain.
Yeah.
He also makes sure to provide you with the necessities to survive. So he provides you with water and food. He does occasionally trade with outsiders when you need more parchment to replace books and whatnot. He acquires that for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nice, easy understanding. It's not complicated. Essentially, it's don't break stuff and we're good.
Yeah, it sounds.
Yeah.
It's so easy. I could never fuck this up. No,
Yep.
never.
Not at all. So you've spent the last couple of weeks sort of investigating a section of the library that you've not looked into much before. It's like sort of off on its own, so it's sort of semi-secluded from the rest of the main complex. And whilst you've obviously kept an eye on to make sure that it wasn't, none of the shelves were rotting and there weren't any moths and whatnot eating the books, you still haven't investigated the works all that much, just because there were other things that interested you first. But you have stepped into this particular sections a few weeks ago, and there are some books that have interested you. There are some more sort of general history books covering the history of the world, a little bit of history about the continent. And of particular interest is a book that's smaller than most of the other books in here, but seems to just contain a collection of rituals. Various rituals that are used to do very weird and strange things. There's like one that you can use. There's a particular ritual that there is listed in this book that sort of it creates an effect similar to prestidigitation, in the fact that it creates like the lights and sparkling, but on like a much grander scale.
Greater prestidigitation.
Greater prestidigitation, yes. It's a bunch of not necessarily too like overly powerful magics. They're not like world bending.
They're just unique.
They're just unique, yeah, unique and different, and they're not anything that you know how to do. And even speaking to Halvar when you see him isn't very often. It's not something that he recognises either.
When speaking of these magics to him, does he display like an interest or a fear, or how does he receive this?
He's mostly indifferent. He's sort of he only looks after the library because it was in his woods, but he's much happier not having to deal with it. He's not a fan of stone and walls, so
at least it's not metal.
yes, yeah. So he's happy in the magic that he knows and the druidic and natural energies that he can control and make use of. He doesn't want to expand into things that he doesn't understand or has no reason to understand. Mm-hmm. He sort of the concept sounds cool, but he personally has no say in it, as it were. So you've read through this ritual book a couple of times, and you've come across a couple of them. Some of them are a lot more complicated, some of them are simpler. And you have selected on one of them in particular that you've read and was like, ooh, that sounds like it could be fun. It sort of summons like a localized storm cloud inside a circle.
Yes. It could be fun.
I mean, the idea of just being able to summon just a very small, out of nothing, just creating a very small localized thunderstorm. So you've spent a few days sort of collecting things needed for the ritual, and you now have everything you need except for one or three things technically, but it's the specific things you need. You have all the items except for the venom glands of giant poisonous snakes. So,
yes, common part of any storm.
I mean, it's weird magic.
Yeah.
It's very weird magic. That is what you need. It is the start of a new day. What would you like to do?
Well, knowing that I need to find some snakes, let's out into the forest and if I know where, probably see if I can find the druid to ask.
That's fair. The druid, you can sometimes get hold of him if you sort of just shout loudly enough. Doesn't always turn up. Depends on his mood more than anything. But if you wander around long enough, you'll probably run into him.
How big is the forest anyway?
It's a pretty decent sized forest.
Good few acres.
Yeah, like big enough that the building the library you're in is pretty sizable.
Actually, yeah. If it can consider, is it a one floor building, multiple?
It's a multiple floor. You're talking like sort of three floor library. It's
okay. That gives a better example of how big the woods are.
Yeah.
Because if you can conceal the 3-floor building,
they're large woods, and it's big enough that if if someone doesn't want you to find that library, you're not finding that library. You're never going to stumble across it. Which is itself is an interesting thing.
I would question how I found it, but let's leave that for now. No one would stumble across it.
Yeah.
Except the person who stumbled across
Except for the person who stumbled across it. Well, yeah, but maybe forces were put in motion that allowed you to stumble across it.
So, I go out into the woods.
Yes. You go out into the woods. You have obviously you've wandered the woods a fair amount because at times you get bored of library stuff. And you have occasionally encountered giant snakes in the thing. They're not an uncommon thing to see. Unlikely. Well, you're probably going to find some of them pretty quickly. The thing that potentially being aware of is obviously Halva has got an equilibrium that he likes to maintain within the forest, and he has certain areas where, and they don't always stay the same. There's certain areas where he's like, you kill anything in here and I'm going to be pissed at you. And then there are other areas where he's like, just if you need it for something, go ahead.
Okay. So it's not the first time I've gone looking around for a component of sorts.
Yeah. Like you've gone through and grabbed components every now and again, or
torn a spider apart, or two something.
Yeah, or gone hunting because the main thing that Halva brings you is just like dried mushrooms.
Yeah, I'm gonna go looking for boar meat or something.
Yeah, exactly. So he's become a lot more lax on it than he was originally. The first time you did it, he properly laid into you about it, but he's sort of become a little bit more like, whatever, fine. Just if you're killing one, all right.
Bloody roommates.
Yeah. You're just gonna wander until you find either snakes and or Halva.
If I don't know any better way, then yes.
Cool. Go ahead and as you're wandering, make a perception check.
Okay.
It's a good first roll.
Perception is was plus 0, 16.
16. Cool. That doesn't take you particularly long. You don't see Halva. Not uncommon. It's it's big woods, and he's doing whatever he needs to do for his druidic stuff. It takes you a sort of like 10 or so minutes out from the library, sort of walking out in like a sort of spiral sort of thing. You come across a a nest of giant poisonous snakes. There are 3 of them,
Okay.
which is the number of glands you need, so that's useful. You do know, having been here for a while, sometimes the way animals live together in this woods is a little strange. In the fact, you will find a nest of fully grown adult poisonous snakes. However, has never explained why. You've asked him, and he's just sort of not responded.
Okay.
So, this isn't an odd thing for you to see.
I mean, the fact that there's a druid tending these woods, I just take that as the reason for abundance of life.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess there's nothing else to do other than attack them.
Attack them, murder. Yeah, cool. So let's go ahead and roll initiative.
Okay, also good. That's, 18.
18, cool. Well, Snake's got a 24. That is the first time the initiative is rolled high. However, they are, docile for all intents and purposes.
They don't see people off, and then suddenly one turns up and shoots.
Yeah, they're also mostly asleep because it's still the start of the day.
Okay.
So you are going to surprise them, and you are going to be hidden. So you have 3 snakes.
Right. Well, I should have said this bit like. If I know I'm going to go out fighting, I should have said I'm going to cast Mage Armor on myself. It's a bit late to say that now, isn't it?
You can go ahead. It's not a tense situation. You know you were coming to kill snakes. You can cast Mage Armor.
Yes.
But you can cast Mage Armor before you attack them. Really, you see them are like, oh.
So, I assume that's done the thing. It doesn't change my armor class on the thing automatically, so
No, it doesn't, which is really annoying.
It does everything else on this, but not
Yeah, I
that.
know, but not Mage Armor.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll just have to remember my armor is 16.
Cool. AC 16, I shall remember.
Because it's 13 plus dex, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
16.
Cool.
Right, well, to start with, let's cast a Ray of Sickness at them. But
Cool.
I am going to use a one of my sorceress things to,
Yep.
To do 2 targets
To
at
twin
once.
it. Cool. So you fire a ray of poison, ray of sickness at 2 of them. Awesome.
I think level 1 should be enough.
Go for it. So do it against the first snake first because you are hidden. You have the ray comes out at the same time, so you get advantage on both, but do it independently.
Brilliant.
So against snake number 1.
That's a 13 plus 5.
That will hit the snake.
18. So it's 2d8s.
Yep.
Where are my d8s?
They are in front of your phone. There we go.
That's 7.
7 damage. Awesome. That puts that snake down to that.
And he does a con save.
Yep. Which that snake will fail on a 6.
So he's poisoning out. This
Yep.
one is that's 9.
A 9 unfortunately does not hit.
Oh, well, 4 and a 2. That's awful.
That's unfortunate, yeah. Snakes are quick, and even when they're still waking up, they can move weirdly. You also try not to hit them in the head, which is you're hitting for a smaller area. But cool. All right. Well, that's them. They did the surprise you went thing. Cool. Now it's their turn. So, they are still waking up. The only one that's actually going to do anything is the poison one, mostly because it's sort of like that. The poison has jolted through its system and reacted weirdly with the snake. So that one is going to slither up to you and attempt to bite you. But because it is poison, it's disadvantage.
Yes.
However, a 22 still hits.
Of course, I'm
Yeah.
playing against you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. So it's 5 points of piercing damage.
And he's not the only one with. I'm not the only one with poison here.
Yes, you need to make a Constitution saving throw as the venom sinks through your system.
That's an 8 plus I think 2. Where Yes, +2.
Plus 2? I think
Oh wait, no,
yeah,
con.
it's higher than that.
Yes, because I'm proficient.
Yep.
Okay, so it's +4, which makes it 12.
12 is a pass.
Good, that does make a difference.
It does make a difference. So you only take 5 points of poison damage.
Only.
Yes, only 5. But the other 2 snakes don't do anything. Cool, so that brings it back to your turn.
Okay. Then I will do a. Let me just double check my spells.
Yeah, no problem.
So yeah, having obviously alerted them, I think now would be time to do a. How many sorcerer's points do I get actually?
You have 4. You have the number equal to your level.
Yes, so let's actually list it down. Get them back on a long rest. Okay.
Yes. And you can also convert spell slots into sorcery points.
Yes. Okay, let's do a another twinned ray of sickness.
Okie dokie. That will have disadvantage because you do have that snake next to you.
Oh right, the snake's next to me.
Yes, yeah, it came up next to you and bit you.
Oh right, in that case,
Oh, actually, no, it probably didn't because it's got a really big reach. It's actually still 10 feet away because it can do that. So never mind.
Spider from 10 feet away.
Yeah, they got a long body.
This is a bigger snake than I thought.
Yeah, well, yeah, you know.
Don't take that out of context.
So that's fine, Joe. You won't have disadvantage because it's not actually within 5 feet of you.
Okay, so I'll do another 2 attacks.
Yep.
So the first one, again level 1.
Yep.
First one against the snake that's next to me.
Yep. Heart 1.
Oh, this is a 16 plus the
That
5.
will hit.
So that's another 2d8.
Yep.
Which is a 7, 4.
Cool. It doesn't need to roll for its save
Okay.
because the poison and the sickness sort of kills it. Yeah.
Great. And then so
against-
the second attack.
Yep. Against another one.
That's not so good. That
No.
one doesn't hit because it's less.
Yeah. Unfortunately. Are you backing up from them or staying where you are?
If I have some space, then I probably will back up.
Yeah.
slightly.
You can back up. You can back up.
Yeah, because I'm not within range of them.
Yeah.
So they can't do the reactionary.
Yeah, the other 2 were still sort of getting to it. So the other 2 are coming to now, and they will start slithering through the grass towards you. They're still not moving very quickly though, so they still don't shut down the gap completely. So going back to your turn.
Okay. This time knowing how dangerous this is, I'll use a chaos bolts.
Go for it. That's a great spell.
Yes. So it's a make a ranged spell attack. I
Yep.
will do the magical tide thing to get
Tides of
advantage
chaos
of
to give
this.
yourself advantage. Yep.
17
That will hit.
plus the numbers.
This does 2d8 plus 1d6 to one of them, and if you roll doubles,
It's an 8, a 3, and a 5.
yeah. So no doubles on the d8, so it won't bounce, but that's a still fair chunk of damage.
Yes, this is 11, 16.
16 damage. Cool. Damage type doesn't matter, but out of interest, what damage types do you get out of that?
Let's see.
You
So
got
it was
3 and
one of the d8s. So
Yeah.
it's either a thunder
Cool.
or it's fire. I'll probably go with fire.
Fire. Cool. So
Because I don't want to wake everything and then
Yes.
piss off the druid.
that's fair. So you unleash this chaos bolt, sort of like this green sort of pulsing beam of light, which just before it strikes the snake ignites, and you watch as you sort of burn the outer this outer skin, and it dies a unpleasant burning death.
That's okay. So that's a curse used.
Yep.
Right.
Are you moving, or are you happy where you are?
I think I'm happy where I am.
Cool. Coming to the last remaining snake, it will sliver up the remaining distance to you and reach out to you with its bite attack, which Does not hit on a 10. So that brings it to your turn. This one has slid completely up next to you.
Okay, so I will have to use. I have a touch cantrip, shocking grasp.
Shocking grasp, go for it.
Another 3. Okay,
Cool.
so that misses.
Yeah, so you reach out to zap it, and it moves its head weirdly, and you don't.
It's not wearing armor made of metal, is it?
No, unfortunately, no. Though at some point, maybe. Cool. In retaliation, the snake will attempt to bite you back. That a 15 misses you
Yes, that misses.
because of mage armor.
Okay, let's do the same again.
Yep.
That's 5 plus, I guess, would this be plus 5?
It's whatever your spell attack, so it would be your charisma and proficiency.
And then if I go to the attack stat, I'm sure this will work far better.
Yes.
Where is the attack stat? Actions, it must be an action.
Yes, actions.
Yeah, plus 5.
Cool.
So 10.
10 is not enough to hit this snake. They're pretty quick, and dodging out of the way quite rapidly. So an attempt to bite you. That time is a 17.
Yeah, that one hits.
Yeah. So that one will do 8 points of piercing damage. And I need you to make a Constitution saving throw.
That's 11 plus.
Yeah,
that's higher than before, so
That's a pass. So you will only take 6 points of poison damage.
So it was 8 before.
Yep, and then 6.
Okay, I'm down to 14.
That's cool. You're still
I'm
fine.
a sorcerer.
Yeah, you don't have many hit points. You just have your con more than anything.
Yeah.
But it is your turn. The snake is done.
This thing is still next to me. I'm
Yep.
still going to roll that dice. That's better.
That hits.
So yeah, the 17 plus 5,
Yep.
and shocking grasp is a D8.
D8. Yep.
Which does 8.
8 damage. Nice. That snake looks really hurt from that. Just that one blast of energy has done a lot of damage.
Okay, so we can't take a reaction.
Nope,
so I
can't
am
take
going
reaction.
to recoil a bit.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really make too much difference.
Yep. So you're back up. Do you have Quicken spell?
I do not.
Ah, okay. Yeah, that's unfortunate. But you still did the shocking grasp. Okay, on its turn, it slithers back up to you and attempts to bite you. Misses with a natural 1. So your turn.
Okay, so it's still next to me.
Yeah,
Then it's going to be rather predictable from here on out.
yeah.
That's 10 plus 5, so
That
15.
hits. Yep, that's comfortably hitting.
98 is 6 more damage.
Cool, and you zap that snake into death.
Just cool. So at this point, I will obviously take my poison venom glands.
The venom glands, yeah. Which, considering you have no rush, there is no threat right now. I'm not going to make a roll for it. You literally have all the time you need to pull these venom glands out.
Right.
So,
I'm sure if I look back on it anyway.
yeah. So you eventually pop out the 3 venom glands from each of the snakes. Sure. Thank you. No.
Don't bribe your DMs, it's bad.
It is bad.
Not encouraged.
But yeah, cool. So you have your 3 venom glands that you need for your ritual. Anything else you'd like to do in the forest, or would you like to try your ritual out?
So I'd have to go back to the library to test it out.
Yes, yeah. That's where the book is. That's where the rest of your components are.
I'd assume anything's better done fresh, so I might as well head back and
That's fair.
do this.
Cool. So make your way back to the library. You do, on your way back, notice a sort of brown bear, sort of like, as you're leaving, step out to where you were with the snakes and sort of look down at them and look up at you.
Enjoy.
Well, you become aware that it is Halver.
Oh,
He has a particular marking when he takes brown bear form that makes him easy to identify. So like just a particular white crescent shape around his right eye. So he has just appeared. Brown Bear is his preferred form, but he's just there to sort of sniff and see what's happened more than anything. Doesn't do anything. Just looks at them, looks at you, and
Venom.
sort
And
of just
I head off.
yeah, and then he sort of plods back into the forest. Cool. So you make your way back. You collect up the book, flip to the page that you want to look at. Get out the components. Use some of the chalk you have to sort of etch out the circle on the floor and the various runes and whatnot that you need. Double check it all. Look up. Hold the book out. Make sure that everything is right. Put the components in the right place. Sort of mixed into a bowl in the middle of the ring. And everything's ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
So you start reading, I assume.
Yeah.
Cool.
What language is this in anyway?
It is in common, but sort of like you got English and Old English. It's it's written in common, but there are words that look different, and are spelled slightly different, and the phrasing is slightly different.
The characters might be written slightly off.
Yeah.
Points.
Yeah. So it's readable, but and you've spent a couple of days going through it and being like, that says this, right? Yes, right. That does make sense in that sentence in that form. So you're pretty confident you've learned what everything is meant to say. But cool. So you pick up the book, you flip the page, and you sit yourself down and start reading. And as you do so, you feel sort of the air sort of crackling and buzzing around you, as it will do when you cast a spell. And the ingredients inside the bowl sort of start spinning and rocking. The bowl rocks, and a very small stream of like sort of grey vapour sort of spirals up out of the bowl, and goes up to fill. Not very high. It comes up to about sort of 3-4 foot off the ground before sort of spreading out and sort of filling this a cylinder sort of shape around where this circle is. And you keep on speaking, and you watch as the vapor fills to be more than just a spiral. To actually, it fills the whole section, and then
I'm sat outside the circle.
yes, you're outside the circle. Yeah. And then there starts to be like lightning bolts sort of striking through the cloud, and the crack of lightning, thunder, as it comes through, and you can hear the pattering of rain. It's surprisingly quiet, considering you've just got a thunder cloud right there.
It's all very contained.
It's very, very contained. And as you speak and continue reading, there's a particular section that's like, repeat this to keep it in existence. So you just keep repeating this one phrase over and over and over again. And as you're doing so, I would like you to please make a charisma saving throw.
Oh, good. This is a 5, which is, but charisma as a sorcerer is exactly what I'm good for. So that goes up to 10.
10. Okay. So,
So,
as you're reading, you suddenly feel this like burst of energy, sort of coming from inside your energy, your power within you, but it feels like it's mostly coming from an external source, and you sort of blink, and you suddenly become aware that there's this, where you're sitting and where the library is, you can see this large sort of like white, a word to describe it would be river, but it's not really a river.
a flowing.
Some sort of energy is sort of passing through where you're sitting, and it's it is filling this hall. And then as you're sitting there, you become aware that it isn't just here. This energy stream sort of passes through most of the forest and sort of splits.
Like a ley line.
Like a ley line, yeah. That is, essentially you're sitting on a ley line. A magical ley line.
Okay.
It also explains the forest being weird, but... and it does spread through the forest. You don't see outside where it goes outside of the forest, but it passes directly beneath the library, and then from there is where it splits out.
There's nothing to indicate that this would be the source of it, just as a part on the route of it.
Yeah, it's more the ley line was there, and the library's been built on the intersection of the ley lines.
So the positioning is very intentional.
Yes, but very unknown to you before. Because as you're sitting there repeating the lines, you become aware of this and go to be like, oh, that's a bit weird. And also, there's more energy, more power going into this than I want to go into this.
This is new and this is worrying.
Yes. So you go to stop talking and discover you can't.
The charisma save, there we go.
Yeah. You are locked in this chain of maintaining the spell continuously. But as you're doing so, the ley line is just channeling more and more energy into you, and in turn that is being channeled into the localized thunderstorm, which, as you're watching, is becoming more and more intense. It is a full-on, take the worst thunderstorm you've ever experienced and multiply that by like a magnitude of 100. But inside this this 5-foot diameter cylinder.
Okay.
And then there's a crack as one of the lightning bolts strikes the edge of the barrier formed by the circle, and you see a crack through the shield, in the actual air through the shield. And then another bolt strikes the same place, and then another bolt strikes the same place, and the crack just until there's a sort of like high-pitched screeching sound, and the whole barrier around where the circle is shatters, and the chalk circle that you drew disappears, as if like you essentially see the actual chalk itself shatter out and be broken.
Always a good sign.
Yep, always a good sign. As you continue to sit there, unable to stop yourself talking, but now aware, you're not saying the phrases in the book anymore. You're saying something you don't know what you're saying. You're just, there's this thing that's just channeling through you, and there's nothing you can do but be a conduit for it.
Good.
And you watch as the thundercloud gets bigger and bigger, and its colour starts changing, and it shifts from being a grey and starts to channeling up the colour spectrum and becomes more of a sort of pink purple colour, with these little like white twinkling lights inside it. And that explodes, rapidly starts to explode outwards, and fills the room you're in, except for where you're sitting. There seems to be around you this sort of
Protection of sorts.
yeah, where that energy is channeling up to you and out, it is also preventing things getting in.
I'm still seeing the ley lines as this.
Yeah, you're still seeing that ley line. Yeah, it becomes more and more intense, and you're very much becoming aware that whether that's a thing that the building itself does or something you've accidentally done, you've tapped into the power of that ley line without being aware that it was there.
I'm fine with this. If it means I'm not dead, it's fine.
Yes. Well, I mean, although you're also becoming aware that the ley line power is what's caused this ritual to go wrong.
Still totally fine.
And what it feels like for you, hours, but in reality is a couple of seconds, your sense of time completely disappears. That purple cloud fills the room, and then just keeps going, and you're having this really weird like out of body experience where you're seeing through your own eyes, but also seeing as an observer watching this pink mist from above the forest.
As the thing expands, and I was sat here, it expands outwards, and my views going.
Yeah, your view's going with it, but you also are able to see yourself see from your perspective in the middle of this purple-pink mess.
Not confusing.
No, not at all. And you get to a view of outside the library, and the cloud expands across the entirety of the library, and then keeps going and going and going, and starts like enveloping a large swath of the forest.
Do I see a bear?
You do not see a bear at that moment in time, but that's probably coming. This is like the purpleness is mist is getting big enough to where it's sort of cresting the top of the tree line, and then there's another cracking sound, and the purple mist sort of just back into and just it completely retracts, and your vision goes back with it, and then you come back to where you are, normal vision. You're no longer seeing the ley lines. You feel very lightheaded. You're very dizzy, and your body feels exhausted. Like you are
I'm not
drained.
talking anymore.
You're not talking anymore. It's completely gone. And as your vision sort of like relocates itself, and you get used to where it is, you become aware that you're sitting on the ground. You're no longer inside the library, but you haven't moved.
Okay.
Just the library's not there anymore.
There's no trace of it.
It's gone. It's just completely gone. And you're even as you sort of focus a little bit more and become more aware, you're sort of sitting on you know in anime when they make like a huge explosion, for some reason that one bit of rock they're standing on doesn't get destroyed. You're sitting on
a chair or a stool.
Yeah, you're just on a bit of rock, or a bit of dirt in a crater, and you're looking around, and the trees are gone as well. The trees that were hit by that mist are gone, or the ones that are completely enveloped, and the ones that weren't like entirely enveloped and only sections were, that section is gone, and you're just sitting in the middle of it.
Okay.
What would you like to do?
I think I'm going to have a chat with the one person that I can have a chat with. He's probably standing at the edge of the crater and not too long staring at me.
Yeah, it doesn't. As you're sort of like getting your bearings, like, oh shit, something's gone really wrong here. A familiar brown bear with this white crescent around his right eye sort of appears at the top of the crater. Doesn't look happy. Sort of like jumps down onto the mud and starts making its way down the bowl. As it does so, it turns into the human form of Halva, who has, he's an old human, but druids live for a long time, so he's pretty spry for his age, but he looks old. His hair is white. He
should be a lot more frail for what.
Yeah,
what he is.
for what his appearance is. But he's very spry, and he sort of like starts like jumping down towards you.
I guess I don't have to look after the library anymore.
He looks up at where you are, and sort of his eyes were already pretty narrowed. They sort of narrow more. Icarus.
I made good use of those venom glands. I say good use. I made some use.
Where's my forest?
Is there no trees here?
But the section you're in, no. Where that mist sort of filled up to hit the forest, the trees are no longer there. There are outside this bowl, the forest is still there, but there's this very obvious lack of foliage where you are. There's just a lack of anything apart from dirt.
Thought you'd like a nice plot of land to make something new. I cleared some space.
Can you bring it back? I
don't know.
I think you should find that out.
I would, but the books are gone as well.
Mm-hmm.
The library's gone, the books are gone, my chair. I had a nice chair here. It's all gone, and I don't know how or why.
Well, Icarus, I would strongly suggest leaving and finding out how and why.
That's probably a good idea. I'm very sorry. I'll be going now.
That is a good idea. Don't return until you've brought it back.
And I head off in where the ley lines. Did they have a direction that they were flowing?
Yes. They were flowing west to east.
Then, do I want to go to the source or to the end?
Well,
it doesn't matter. I imagine it all loops around anyway.
Yes, and to provide you with a bit of information of where you are on the western end of the continent. So if you travel west, you're just going to find the edge of the continent and the sea.
I travel east in the direction that the ley lines were going.
Fair enough. Traveling east, you after a few days will come across a lagoon, a large lake with a town in the middle of it. Talking to them, they will give you some information about where you might find books. They give you the information about a city in the south called Jofrime that has recently come into being, and they have many people living there. They have collected the 4 races. It is known as the City of Peace. Mm-hmm. And there is a vast collection of available knowledge there within the various temples of Ioun, the Mistress of Knowledge. They're actually about to send out a wagon train across the continent towards Jofrime, so they're willing to let you travel with them. So you travel with them. You counter things on the way, but for the most part, it's a pretty easygoing journey.
Right.
You will come to Jofrime. It is a very at this point. Yeah, it's a large city at this point. Most notably of interest is as you're approaching, you can see this large, white teardrop-shaped building that's floating above the city and sort of slowly rotating.
This is odd.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's right over the center of the city.
I inquired to one of the guards about the building,
Oh yeah.
which I'm sure he's recounted this story multiple times.
Yeah, he's like, oh, it's the teardrop. It's where the council is. It's where viewing platforms are. It's where various people stay. Important people. It's important.
Okay.
But aside from that, it seems like the standard hustle and bustle in the city. You get in, the people you travelled with sort of point you in the direction of where you might find a Temple of Ioun, and you head over in that way, and that is where we're going to call your session 0.
Okay.
As you make your way into the temple and make friends with the cleric there, who will come up later.
Right.
So cool. That is an intro into Icarus's backstory and the clusterfuck going on there.
Just kind of slightly ruin everything.
Yep, that's fine. It wasn't entirely his fault.
It's entirely my fault.
There we go. Thank you very much for watching. Go watch the other things because they're fun and awesome, and there's no reason why you shouldn't. And it's more things like that and stupid things happening, and it's entertaining. And there are links that you might be able to find, which I'm hoping people watch and find because it's funny. So yeah, keep an eye on the channel. Hopefully we'll see you in the start of the actual campaign. Thank you very much and goodbye.